You mentioned the high-speed rail. I'm sure you're tired of talking about the high-speed rail, but it was passed in 2000. In 2019, you said, let's be real, the current project as planned would cost too much, respectfully take too long. Right now, there simply isn't a path to get from Sacramento to San Diego. Well, there's a path. It's the highway. Let alone from San Francisco to L.A. I wish there were. However, we do have the capacity to complete a high-speed rail link from Merced to Bakersfield. I know you're the governor of everyone in the state, and those are... can you name 3 people who ever wanted to go from Merced to Bakersfield? I mean, I feel like, I'm just saying, it's like...
Let me challenge the premise, because I think in many respects this goes to, I think, the state of the Democratic Party. And I mean this with respect. The Central Valley in California is one of the fastest growing parts of the state. It's predominantly rural, yes. It's predominantly Republican, yes. But it's an incredibly important part of the state. And I think we, at our own peril, we talk down to people in the Central Valley. And I think a lot of people extend that as part of the problem with the Democratic brand. We talk down to people, we talk past people. I think it's an incredibly important part of the state, not just because I represent the state. By the way, that represented that part of the state, probably the largest share of my recall vote. So I'm not saying that in the context of a political frame, but I am saying it in the context of trying to meet people where they are and respect people. All of us want to be protected. We want to be respected. We want to be connected. And I think they have a right to have this kind of investment as much as the coast.
I really wasn't attacking those people, but good turn.
But I think it's a...
No. But, that's why I think it's why you'd be a good candidate. You played this game well.
On March 28th, 2025, HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher featured California Governor Gavin Newsom, fresh from his self-appointed crusade to save democracy by touring red states, a not-so-subtle signal that he might be eyeing the White House in 2028. With Democrats licking their wounds after the 2024 electoral bloodbath, Newsom, America's slickest political salesman, has emerged as their leading hope, offering a sort of ideological flexibility that's equal parts inspiring and nauseating, depending on whether you believe in anything beyond poll numbers. The episode kicked off with Maher grilling Newsom about California's notoriously troubled high-speed rail project, approved by voters back in 2008, originally estimated at $33 billion, and supposed to be completed to whisk passengers from San Francisco to LA by 2020. Yet here we are in 2025, with the project's cost now ballooned to an eye-watering $128 billion, an increase so absurd it almost sounds like satire. But unfortunately, this is real life in California politics, where budgets are suggestions and taxpayer dollars vanish into bureaucratic oblivion without explanation or accountability. Adding insult to fiscal injury, Californians still don't have a single mile of genuinely useful track connecting major urban centers. Instead, they're gifted with the thrilling prospect of a high-speed rail route between Bakersfield and Merced, a line so bizarrely pointless that Maher previously mocked it on his show by sarcastically remarking, California is $6 billion in the hole just to connect raisins, referring humorously to the region's primary agricultural output and lack of major cities. When your multi-billion-dollar project is reduced to a punchline about dried fruit, you know you've officially entered political clown world. Newsom responded exactly as you'd expect, acknowledging the fiasco but arguing passionately that quitting would be worse. He tried pivoting the blame to bureaucratic red tape while insisting California's vision would ultimately pay off. It's the classic Newsom maneuver, deflect, obfuscate, and when all else fails, vaguely promised to talk more with farmers. Maher rightly laughed in his face, making sure the governor didn't skate away from the absurdity too comfortably. Yet, in a bizarre twist, Maher also threw out a semi-serious compliment, praising Newsom's mastery of political slipperiness by joking he'd make a great presidential candidate precisely because he's so skilled at evading accountability. This, sadly, is exactly why American politics is spiraling into dysfunction, because even critics occasionally reward slick politicians for their ability to avoid answering real questions. Beyond the rail fiasco, Maher also pressed Newsom on the identity crisis plaguing the Democratic Party, highlighted by embarrassing debates around woke buzzwords like Latinx. Newsom boldly claimed he's never used the term, conveniently forgetting a few years ago when it was plastered all over California's progressive pamphlets.
By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we finally put that to bed?
Yeah,
we agree.
But where did that even
No
come?
more Latinx, everybody.
Well, I just didn't even know where it came from. I'm like, what are people talking about?
But there was a person who used Latinx. It was actually a really important person. It was him.
I hope we can really paint a picture in terms of our consciousness of how impactful this has been on the Latinx community. The Latinx and black communities. You've got politicians that are banning not assault rifles, but the word Latinx. They're not even serious.
Who cares about consistency when you can effortlessly pivot from full-blown woke warrior to centrist pragmatist just in time for the polls? All this brings us to Newsom's uncanny knack for ideological shapeshifting. Watching him navigate Maher's interrogation, you're reminded of Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, perfectly coiffed, charming, and thoroughly unsettling in his ability to mimic humanity without seeming entirely genuine. It's as if Newsom's entire political persona is one long audition, perfectly timed for a 2028 presidential run that he's definitely not planning. This is the stage set by Bill Maher's interrogation of Gavin Newsom, a deep dive into one politician's ambition, the Democratic Party's ongoing identity crisis, and the burning question: is Gavin Newsom the principled leader Democrats desperately need, or just another slimy opportunist skilled at climbing ladders while leaving chaos behind? Spoiler alert, it's definitely the second one.